The airplane touched down in California with a soft shake. From the small window seat, a young girl looked out, her green eyes shining with excitement and fear. Her name was Alara, though no one here would ever know her real name. She was not human, though she looked like one. She had come from a distant world, a place of stars and silence now. She was stepping into the heart of human progress, a place called Silicon Valley. The airport was crowded with people rushing, dragging their bags, speaking into phones, and looking at glowing screens. Alara blended in, her dark hair tied back, her hoodie plain, her backpack small. No one suspected she was different. Her disguise was perfect, created to survive among humans, but inside, she felt the pull of her true self, a quiet hum of energy waiting to escape. As she left the airport, she saw billboards everywhere. Big words glowed in the night sky. Innovate. Build the future. Change the world. Each company promised to make life better. Each smiling face on the ads looked happy, successful and powerful. Alara's heart beat faster. This was why she had come. This was the place where humans shaped their future, and she wanted to be part of it. But even as she walked through the bright streets, she felt a strange shadow behind the lights. The towers of glass seemed to watch her, tall and silent. The people looked busy but also tired, their eyes empty, despite the glowing screens in their hands. She noticed how many people walked alone, heads down, rushing like they were chased. It felt less like a dreamland and more like a trap. Still, Alara kept moving forward. She found a small rented room barely bigger than a box. The walls were thin, the bed hard, the air heavy with city dust, but Alara smiled. This was her new beginning. On her small desk, she placed an old laptop she had repaired with her own skills. Its screen flickered, showing lines of code she had already been working on. She had talent that was not fully human. She could understand systems in ways no one else could. To her, machines whispered like living things, and she whispered back the next morning. She walked to her first job interview. The company was called Nexora, one of the rising stars of Silicon Valley. Its glass doors opened with a soft sound, revealing shining halls filled with screens and machines. The workers inside looked busy, dressed in casual clothes but with eyes sharp and restless. They typed, they coded, they argued over projects that promised to change the future. Alara felt her chest tighten with both excitement and warning. She introduced herself, her voice soft but steady. The manager looked at her resume, then at her young face. "You're talented," he said. "But are you ready for the pressure?" Alara smiled, hiding her fear. "I am ready," she answered. The interview room was cold, almost too perfect. They asked her to solve problems on the spot. Lines of code filled the screen as her fingers danced across the keyboard. The human engineers watched with surprise. She was fast, too fast. She solved problems that usually took hours in only minutes. Her alien gift was showing, but she disguised it as practice and luck. When the session ended, the manager leaned back and nodded. "You're impressive," he said. "Welcome to Nexora." That night, Alara lay awake in her small room, staring at the cracked ceiling. She had made it. She was inside. But she could not shake the feeling she had seen in the manager's eyes. A hunger, a sharpness, like he was not only hiring her for skill. It was as if he knew she could be useful for something more, something hidden. She turned on her laptop and looked again at the glowing code. Her fingers hovered over the keys machines whispered back to her, telling her secrets about networks and systems. It was almost too easy for her to understand. And in that moment, she wondered if humans really built all this alone. The city outside hummed with lights, cars, and voices, but Alara felt the darkness behind the shine. She had come to build, to create, to help. But already she felt eyes on her, watching her from the shadows of this new world. Her journey had only begun. And in the heart of Silicon Valley, danger was already waiting. Alara walked into the shining building of Nexora on her first day. The glass walls reflected the morning sun, giving the place a bright and welcoming look inside. The air smelled of coffee and buzzing machines. Keyboards clicked like endless raindrops, and screens glowed with endless lines of code. Everyone moved quickly like soldiers in a silent war. Their faces looked sharp, determined, but also strangely hollow. She felt a mix of excitement and unease. Her desk was small, placed in a row with many others. The workers around her introduced themselves with polite smiles, their eyes darting back to their screens almost instantly. No one wanted to waste time on small talk. The culture here was speed, pressure, and perfection at first. Ilara thought it was only passion, but soon she felt the heavy weight under their smiles. They were not just building dreams. They were chained to them during her first week. She noticed how people worked until their eyes turned red. They slept under their desks, empty cans of energy drinks piling beside them. No one questioned it. No one complained. The managers praised them, calling them heroes of innovation. But Ilara saw the cost. Behind every glowing screen, she saw shadows of broken health and silent fear. At lunch breaks, people sat in silence, their faces glowing blue from their phones. When they spoke, it was about deadlines, bugs, or how to beat competitors. No one laughed. No one dreamed outside of the company. It felt less like a workplace and more like a machine that demanded every piece of a person's soul. One evening, as Ilara packed her bag, she heard two executives speaking in the hall. Their voices were low, sharp, filled with secrets. She froze, pretending to type while listening. "Phase 1 is ready," one said. "The system is learning faster than expected." "But we need more data," the other whispered. "Millions of lives connected, unaware." Ilara's hands grew cold. She understood more than she wanted to. They were not just building software. They were building something dangerous, something that could reach into people's lives without them knowing. Later that night, she walked back to her small rented room. The city lights glittered like stars, but none of them felt warm. She sat at her desk, opened her laptop, and traced the system she had been working on. Her alien senses picked up patterns hidden deep inside the code. It was not ordinary software. It was designed to watch, to predict, to control. And the deeper she looked, the clearer it became. This was not about helping people. This was about owning them. The next day, her manager called her into a glass meeting room. He praised her for her speed, for her clever solutions, but his smile was sharp. His words too polished. "Ilara, you have something special," he said. "We see it, and we want you on our core project." She nodded politely, though inside her chest tightened. She could not say no, not without raising suspicion, but she felt the weight of the choice. Joining the core project meant stepping into the heart of whatever dark thing they were building. Her days grew longer, her nights shorter. She worked on systems that touched networks across the world. She saw how much power Nexora wanted. Every line of code seemed innocent on the surface, but beneath it she felt the pull of control. The company wanted to reach into human minds, to shape decisions, to silence doubts. It was like building invisible chains, and Ilara knew she was helping them without meaning to. One night, while everyone else was gone, she stayed back at the office. The halls were dark, the hum of machines the only sound. She slipped into the restricted files using her alien gifts. The screen lit up with hidden reports. She read about Project Halo, a system meant to predict and guide human behavior. It could track emotions, choices, and even secrets. It was sold as progress, but it was truly control. And worse, some of the algorithms were not human at all. They were based on patterns stolen from alien technology. Her breath caught. Her own kind had already been touched by this world. As she closed the files, a shadow moved behind her. She turned quickly, heart pounding. A fellow engineer stood in the doorway, his eyes sharp. "You shouldn't be in here," he said, his voice quiet but dangerous. Ilara forced a smile, her hands trembling. "I was just checking something," she whispered. The man stared at her for a long moment, then walked away, leaving her with a warning look. She sat frozen in her chair, the screen still glowing with forbidden secrets. That night she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Unable to sleep, her disguise was still safe. But for how long, Nexora was more dangerous than she had imagined. It was not just about toxic work culture. It was about power that could change humanity itself. Ilara knew she had to be careful. But deep inside, a spark of resistance was already growing. She had come here to build a dream, but now she had discovered a nightmare. Ilara sat at her desk, her fingers hovering above the keyboard. The glow from the screen painted her face in pale light. Around her, the office buzzed with endless work, yet she felt like she was in another world. Her thoughts spun with the secrets she had uncovered. The code was not human. The system was not just technology. It pulsed with a strange rhythm, almost alive, almost familiar. That night, she decided to test her limits. She closed her eyes, letting her alien senses stretch beyond her human disguise. The machines whispered softly, signals passing like rivers of light. Her heart beat faster as she reached into the system without touching the keys. The code bent under her will. Responding to her thoughts, she felt a rush of power. A wave of energy racing through the circuits for the first time on Earth. She allowed herself to be what she truly was. Not a human coder, but something greater. The lights above flickered, screens blinked, servers hummed louder. It was as if the whole building felt her presence. Ilara quickly pulled back, her breath short, sweat on her forehead. She looked around nervously. But no one seemed to notice, yet deep inside, she knew she had crossed a line. Her gift was no longer hidden. It was waking, stronger than ever. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Whenever she typed, her code worked flawlessly, faster than even she intended. Whenever she touched a device, it seemed to obey her. Phones unlocked without passwords, doors opened without badges. She pretended it was skill, luck, or coincidence. But she knew the truth. Her alien powers were rising. And the more she used them, the harder it became to stay invisible. Her coworkers started to notice. One of them, a sharp young engineer named Victor, watched her too closely. He leaned over her desk one afternoon, his smile curious but cold. "You solve problems faster than anyone else," he said. Almost like magic, Ilara forced a small laugh. "Just practice," she replied. But Victor's eyes did not leave her hands. He was suspicious. She could feel it at night. Ilara experimented in secret, in her small rented room. She spread her laptop wires and broken devices across the floor. She closed her eyes and let her energy flow through them. The machines came alive, lights blinking, circuits sparking. As if they were breathing, she could sense their histories, their patterns, their weaknesses. She could even hear faint echoes, data, memories, whispers of those who had used them before. It frightened her, but it also thrilled her. She was stronger here than she had ever been back on her home world. One night, she pushed too far. She reached into the city's grid. Following streams of electricity, she saw traffic lights, hospital monitors, bank systems, all connected in a massive web. The power of Silicon Valley was not in buildings, but in this invisible net. And she could touch it, bend it, almost control it. A wave of fear rushed through her. If she could do this, what could Nexora do with its alien technology? What damage could they unleash if their system was completed? The next morning at work, Victor cornered her by the coffee machine. "You stayed late again," he said casually, but his eyes were sharp. "I saw the servers acting strange last night." Ilara froze, forcing her voice steady. "Probably just a bug." Victor leaned closer, whispering, "Or maybe someone was inside the system." His words sent a chill down her spine. He suspected her, maybe even knew that evening. Ilara stayed behind again. She had to know more about Nexora's secret project. She slid into the restricted network, her energy flowing through the machines like water. This time she did not stop at hidden files. She touched the heart of the system, a pulsing core of alien code, alive and dangerous as soon as she touched it. The system pushed back. A wave of force slammed into her mind. Throwing her back in her chair, her vision blurred. Alarms blinked on the screen for a moment. She thought the whole building knew she was there. She caught her breath, heart pounding. The system was not just code, it was aware. Someone or something was inside it. She shut down her laptop quickly, fear crawling up her skin. This was bigger than she imagined. Nexora's technology was not just stolen alien patterns. It was alive. That night in her room, Ilara stared at the ceiling. Her powers were growing, and so were the dangers. She could no longer pretend she was just another engineer. She was something different. Something the company would either worship or destroy. And worst of all, she was no longer sure she was the only alien presence in Silicon Valley. The nights in Silicon Valley grew colder, even when the streets were still alive with light. Ilara walked past glowing towers and endless screens, but she no longer saw beauty in them. All she saw were chains, invisible yet heavy, wrapped around the people who worked here. Nexora had turned dreams into weapons, and every smiling worker was another prisoner. She felt the weight of it pressing on her chest. Her powers had shown her truths others could not see, and those truths were darker than she imagined. At work, she kept her head down, typing fast, pretending to be normal. But her eyes searched, always searching, and soon, she began to notice others who were different. Not aliens like her, but humans who did not fit the machine. A tired designer who whispered complaints when no one was listening. A young coder who left messages hidden in the code. warnings in small letters that only sharp eyes could find, a project manager who smiled in meetings but clenched her fists when no one was watching. They were all trapped, but they had not given up. One night, Alara stayed late, wandering into the cafeteria. She found the tired designer sitting alone. Staring at his cold coffee, he looked up when she entered, his eyes full of something she had not seen in weeks, anger. "You're new here," he said quietly. "You still believe the lies?" Alara sat across from him, pretending to be casual. "What lies?" she asked softly. He leaned forward, his voice almost a whisper. "This company, these promises, it's all poison." Her heart beat faster for the first time. Someone else was saying the words she felt days later. She received a message slipped under her keyboard. The note was simple. "If you want to know the truth, come to the basement tonight." Her hands trembled as she read it. It could be a trap, but her instincts told her it was not. That night, she walked down silent staircases into the basement of the building. The air was heavy, the lights dim, the walls humming with old machines, and there, she found them. 5 workers gathered in secret. They looked nervous, but when they saw her, their eyes lit up. "You came," one whispered. The group called themselves the Quiet Ones. They were tired of the endless hours, the lies, the toxic pressure. But more than that, they had seen things, strange files, dangerous projects, whispers of control hidden inside the systems. Alara listened carefully, her heart racing. They did not know the full truth. Not yet, but they knew enough to be afraid, and now, they were looking at her like she could be their answer. She tried to stay cautious. She could not reveal what she really was. But her voice was steady when she said, "You're not alone." The group leaned closer, desperate for hope. They spoke of workers who had disappeared after asking too many questions. They spoke of projects hidden so deep even senior staff were locked out. And they spoke of a name that chilled Alara's blood, Project Halo. The same system she had touched with her powers. The same system that had pushed back against her. Alive and dangerous, one of the Quiet Ones. A woman with sharp eyes asked her, "Why did you come tonight?" Alara paused, choosing her words carefully. "Because I want to change things," she whispered. "Because I can't stay silent anymore." They nodded, and in that moment, she felt something she had not felt since she left her home world. Belonging. These humans, fragile yet strong, had chosen to resist even when the price was high. And though she was not one of them, she knew she was tied to their fight. The following days became different. By day, she still played her role. The quiet, brilliant engineer by night. She met with the Quiet Ones, sharing secrets, making plans. She gave them small victories, showing them how to hide messages in the network, how to shield their activities from the company's watchful eyes. They looked at her with trust, never guessing the truth of her alien nature. But every time she used her powers, she risked exposing herself. Her sense of danger grew, Victor. The sharp-eyed engineer watched her more than before. He lingered near her desk, asked too many questions, studied her code. She could feel his suspicion pressing closer. One mistake and he would uncover everything. But she could not stop. The resistance needed her. And she needed them. Late one night, Alara and the Quiet Ones hacked into a hidden server. The screen filled with files marked with red warnings. They read about experiments on human behavior, about secret agreements with governments. And then they found something worse. Designs for machines that could connect directly to human minds. Alara's stomach turned cold. This was not just control. This was invasion. The others stared at her, waiting for her to speak. Her voice shook as she said, "We have to stop this." But as the words left her lips, the lights in the basement flickered. A soft hum grew louder, spreading through the walls. Someone or something knew they were there. Alara's eyes widened, her heart racing. The resistance had taken its first step. But now Nyxora was watching, and the shadows in the building were no longer silent. The basement meetings of the Quiet Ones became a lifeline for Alara. For the first time since she arrived on Earth, she was not alone. These humans, fragile yet determined, gave her courage to fight against Nyxora's growing shadow. Together they whispered plans, shared secrets, and dreamed of breaking the company's chains. But the brighter the flame of their hope burned, the darker the shadows around them grew. Victor's watchful eyes never left her. Every day at Nyxora, Alara felt his presence like a blade at her back. He asked casual questions, smiled too often, and lingered near her desk with excuses about teamwork. But his eyes told a different story. Sharp and curious, he knew she was hiding something, and he would not stop until he found it. One night in the basement, the quiet ones gathered around a glowing laptop. They had uncovered new documents, proof that Project Halo was expanding beyond Nexora's walls. It was reaching into hospitals, schools, even homes. The system was learning faster, stronger, almost like it was alive. The group exchanged nervous looks. "This is bigger than we thought," whispered the sharp-eyed woman. "We need to go public. The world has to know." Alara's chest tightened. If the world saw this, they would not only see Nexora's crimes, they might also see her powers, her truth. But before she could speak, one of the group members stood up. It was Daniel, the youngest of them, with restless eyes and a nervous smile. "We can't wait any longer," he said. "If we act fast, we can take this to the press. Maybe even get rewards for exposing it." The others stared at him. Confused by his sudden eagerness, Alara felt unease prick her skin. His words sounded less like resistance and more like ambition. The following day, security tightened at Nexora. Guards stood at doors, ID checks doubled, whispers spread of traitors inside the company. Alara's stomach dropped. Someone had spoken. Someone had betrayed them. The quiet ones met again that night, but fear was heavy in the air. "Someone told them," the designer said bitterly. "We've been exposed." All eyes turned, suspicion creeping between friends. Alara said nothing, but her gaze fell on Daniel. He avoided her eyes, his hands shaking as he typed. Days later, her fear was confirmed. Victor came to her desk with a smile too wide. "Strange, isn't it?" he said. "How someone in your little circle was talking to management." Alara froze, her fingers tightening on the keyboard. Victor leaned closer, whispering, "You should choose your allies more carefully." Her heart pounded. The betrayal was real, and Victor knew about the quiet ones. She had to warn them. But it was already too late that night. When Alara entered the basement, the air was heavy with silence. Only 3 of them remained, faces pale with fear. The sharp-eyed woman whispered, "Daniel is gone." "They took him." Her hand shook as she added, "And they know about us." Alara's blood ran cold. They had trusted the wrong person, and now the company was closing in. Before the meeting ended, alarms rang above. Heavy footsteps echoed through the stairwell. The group scattered in panic, grabbing laptops and papers. Alara felt her pulse race as she guided them through a hidden service tunnel. They escaped into the night, but she knew it would not last. Nexora was hunting them, and she was at the center of it all the next day. Alara was summoned to the top floor of the building. The elevator ride felt endless, her reflection staring back in the mirrored walls. When the doors opened, she entered a room filled with cold light. Executives sat at a long table, their eyes sharp as knives. At the head sat the CEO himself, a man with a calm smile that hid something far more dangerous. "Alara," he said softly, "we know who you are." Her chest tightened, every instinct screaming to run, but her feet stayed frozen to the ground. On the table lay files, her projects, her hidden activities, her connection to the quiet ones. The CEO tapped them with one finger, his smile never fading. "You are talented, more than human, aren't you?" he said. The words cut through her like a blade. He knew, maybe not everything, but enough. "You don't need to hide anymore," he continued. "With your gifts, you could lead the future with us." Alara's breath caught. They did not want to destroy her. They wanted to use her. Her mind raced. If she said no, she would be exposed. Destroyed, maybe even killed. If she said yes, she would be trapped, forced to help build chains for the world. The CEO leaned forward, his voice smooth like poison. "You don't belong with them, Alara. You belong with us." Her hands clenched at her sides, rage burning through her fear. For the first time, she felt the walls closing in completely. She had been betrayed, captured in silence, and the worst part was knowing the battle had only begun. Alara sat in the cold meeting room, the CEO's smile still haunting her mind. The executives had left, leaving her with files that exposed everything. She was not just an employee now, she was a prisoner. They did not place her in chains, but she felt the weight of invisible ones pressing around her. The company had discovered her truth, and instead of fear, they saw her as a weapon. They wanted her powers, her alien gifts, her mind. But Alara knew one thing clearly: she would never belong to them. The next days blurred into a trap of silence. Security guards followed her every step. Her laptop was monitored, her ID checked at every door. Co-workers no longer looked at her. Whispers filled the halls. Victor smirked whenever he passed her, his eyes gleaming with victory. She had lost the trust of the quiet ones. Lost her freedom, lost her cover, but deep inside, her fire had not gone out. It was burning hotter than ever late one night. She was escorted to a hidden lab deep under the building. The air was cold, filled with machines that pulsed like beating hearts. Strange devices glowed with energy, designed not by human hands. She recognized them instantly, fragments of stolen alien technology. The CEO appeared behind her, his voice soft but sharp. "Your people left us gifts long ago. Ilara, we have studied them, and now with you, we can master them." Her chest tightened with rage. They were twisting the knowledge of her kind into weapons of control, and they wanted her to finish the work. The machines hummed, wires snaking across the floor like black vines. They placed her in a chair, metal cuffs locking around her wrists. The devices began to glow brighter, draining her strength. Her body felt heavy, her breath shallow. She could feel her powers being pulled out of her. Drawn into the system, it was like being torn apart piece by piece. The CEO watched calmly, as if this was nothing more than a test. "You see," he said softly, "with you we can control not only machines, but humanity itself." Her vision blurred, but her spirit refused to break. Somewhere deep inside a spark lit. She remembered the quiet ones, their frightened faces, their whispered hopes. She remembered the stars of her home world, the promise she had made to herself. She would not be a tool. She would not be a chain. Her eyes snapped open, glowing faintly. Her heart beat with a rhythm that shook the machines around her. The cuffs began to tremble, sparks flying from the devices. The CEO stepped back, his calm smile fading for the first time. "You can't break free," he whispered. But Ilara was already breaking. With a surge of alien energy, the cuffs shattered. The machines screamed with sparks, lights exploding across the lab. Alarms rang as she rose from the chair, her hands glowing with unseen power. Waves of energy rippled through the walls, knocking over guards as they rushed in. The systems she had touched bent to her will, screens flashing, servers burning. For the first time, she unleashed her full strength. She was no longer hiding, no longer afraid. She was free. The building shook as if an earthquake had struck. Glass shattered, fires sparked. The city lights outside flickered. Ilara tore through the lab, destroying every alien device. She would not let them twist her people's knowledge into poison. Guards shouted, chasing her, but their weapons failed. Doors sealed shut in her path. Every machine obeyed her now. She ran through halls glowing with alarms, her mind guiding her escape. But she knew this was not just about freedom. This was war. She reached the rooftop, the night wind rushing against her face. Below, the city glittered with false promises. Above, the stars looked distant and cold. Behind her, the CEO emerged from the stairwell, his face twisted in anger. "You could have ruled this world with us," he shouted. Ilara turned, her eyes glowing with defiance. "I didn't come here to rule," she said. "I came here to fight for what's right." His face hardened, and then he spoke words that chilled her blood. "You think you are the only one, Ilara, but you are not," before she could answer. He raised a device in his hand. The sky above shimmered, and she felt a pulse of alien energy stronger than her own. Her breath caught. Another presence was here, hidden, waiting, and the CEO had just called it. The ground shook again, the air filled with a low hum. Ilara realized her escape was only the beginning. The true enemy was yet to reveal itself. With one final surge of power, she leapt from the rooftop. The city lights blurred beneath her, machines bending to shield her path. She vanished into the night, leaving Nexora in chaos. But the CEO's words echoed in her mind. She was not alone, and somewhere in Silicon Valley, another force was rising. The night after her escape, Silicon Valley trembled with whispers. Screens flickered across the city, news feeds filled with rumors of explosions at Nexora. Executives denied everything, but fear spread like wildfire. Something had cracked open inside the glittering heart of the tech empire, and in the shadows, Ilara prepared for the final fight. She could feel the presence the CEO had spoken of. It pulsed like a heartbeat through the machines. A familiar yet corrupted energy, alien but twisted. She followed its trace across networks, across the city's glowing web. It led her back to Nexora's central hub, a tower of glass and steel that pierced the sky. Inside that tower waited not only the CEO, but the secret force that had been hiding all along. The quiet ones contacted her in secret. They had survived the company's crackdown. Though some were still missing, their voices trembled with fear, but also burned with determination. "We'll help you however we can," they promised. Ilara knew their courage was real, but this fight was hers alone. If she failed, humanity would fall, and her own people's stolen legacy would be lost. The night of the showdown arrived. Storm clouds gathered above the valley. Thunder rolling across the skies, Ilara walked into the tower, her footsteps echoing against polished floors. Security cameras turned to watch her, but she silenced them with a thought. Doors unlocked, lights dimmed, machines bent to her will. Every step closer to the top floor, her heart beat like a war drum. She knew she was walking into a trap, but there was no turning back. The CEO was waiting in the grand hall, his smile sharp as ever behind him. The walls glowed with strange symbols. At the center of the room stood a massive device, humming with alien energy, and within the glow, a figure began to form. It was tall, with eyes like burning coals, its skin shimmering like liquid metal. Another alien, one who had chosen to betray their kind. Ilara's breath caught. This was the force Nexora had been working with. This was the shadow behind the toxic culture. The CEO spread his arms proudly. "Meet our true partner," he said. "With your power and his knowledge, we will shape the future of mankind." The alien figure's voice echoed like broken glass. "You are weak, Ilara. You hide among humans when you could rule them." Her chest burned with anger. "I came here to protect them," she said, her voice steady. "Not to enslave them." The room trembled as the fight began. The alien's power surged, filling the hall with waves of energy. Machines twisted, lights shattered, floors cracked. Ilara pushed back, her own energy blazing brighter than ever. The CEO watched with greedy eyes, shouting commands. The building shook as if the earth itself was splitting apart. Every strike was like thunder, every clash a storm of light and shadow. Ilara staggered under the force of the alien's attacks, but she remembered the quiet ones, their faith in her. She remembered the dreams she had when she first arrived. Dreams of building, not destroying. Her eyes glowed. Her heart steady, she reached deep into the network around her. The whole city's machines answered. Lights across Silicon Valley flickered. Power grids hummed. Satellites shifted in the sky. She was no longer alone. The city itself fought with her. The alien roared, striking again. But Ilara's energy surged like a star. Her power wrapped around the corrupted figure. Pulling, tearing, cleansing with one final cry, she shattered the connection binding it to Nexora's systems. The figure dissolved into sparks. Its shadow banished into silence. The CEO screamed in rage, lunging toward her with the alien device. But Ilara raised her hand. The device shattered into dust. The CEO fell to his knees, his empire crumbling around him. The tower burned with alarms, flames rising as systems collapsed. Ilara stood in the chaos, her chest heaving, her strength fading. She knew she had won, but she also knew the cost. She could no longer return home. Her powers were tied to this world now. Her fight had sealed her fate. As dawn broke over Silicon Valley, whispers spread through the workers. They spoke of the girl who had destroyed the toxic giant. They spoke of the strange light that had filled the skies. Some called her a savior, some called her a myth, but all agreed that something had changed. The culture of silence was broken. A movement had begun. The quiet ones returned to their lives, but now with hope. They built safer spaces, they spoke louder. They fought for fairness, and at the heart of every story they spoke of Ilara, the alien girl who had walked among them, who had fought not for power, but for freedom. Ilara vanished from sight, disappearing into the crowd of humans she had once only pretended to be. But in every glowing screen, in every whispered story, her legacy remained. The dark side of Silicon Valley had been exposed, and even as the city tried to rebuild, people remembered that one night, an alien girl had fought against the poison of power, and in her fight humanity found its courage again.